Hey beautiful souls, David Essery here. I wanted to do a video today to talk about the idea of practicing spirituality. How do we practice spirituality? Do we need to practice spirituality? What are the benefits of doing so? And are we doing it already? And lastly, how do we measure our growth as we do continue to practice? I brought you down to the beautiful nature reserve just near where I live, just outside the New Forest in the south of England. I figure we can just go for a little walk and talk and break it down a little bit. First of all, I apologise for the background noise. It doesn't seem to matter where I go this morning, there's people drilling and working, but it should get a bit quieter as we get deeper into the woods and eventually down to the ocean. So come with me. We'll go for a little walk and just talk this through, and yeah, let's see what comes of it. So, practicing spirituality, or practicing in general, what does that mean? To get good at doing anything in life, it requires practice, whether that's a skill or a sport or music or art or whatever it is. We don't naturally start out good with any of these things. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes learning, growth and practice. And this is so true of spirituality and with everything else. I've wandered into the strangest place out here that I've never been into. Bear with me as I try not to get lost. And I've mentioned this on the channel before. I like to think of, kind of growing spiritually, like a little bit like going to the gym. The more you do something, the more you work with your chakras, the more you practice energy management, the better you get at it, the stronger you get, the better your psychic senses become, the more you begin to trust, and so on. And so really to practice is a really important aspect of the spiritual path. And I wonder, just as I talk about this now, how many of you guys would actually say that you practice spirituality? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to know about how you practice the things that you do. Do you consider that you practice? Perhaps you don't. And there's no right or wrong answers here, but it would just be really interesting to get a conversation going. And so, how do we practice spirituality? Well, for the most part, we practice through doing. And spirituality is such a broad term. So, how do we define that? Perhaps you are a reader and you want to improve your kind of ability to do card readings for people. Perhaps you are a healer and you want to get better at channeling energies through. Perhaps you're a medium and you want to get better at channeling messages from spirit. How do we practice these things? Or perhaps, you have an interest in spirituality to improve your day-to-day life, to make your life easier through feeling better. And actually, you're not really looking to do anything with it anyway. And there's kind of two main things that I think I'm breaking this down into in my mind. First of all is kind of general energy management. And I think whatever your answer to, what am I doing with spirituality, practicing energy management is such an important thing. I remember when I first started on this path and I started learning about chakras and working with them, I would take, 15, 20 minutes, something like that, in order to kind of sit down and meditate and focus and visualize and really clean them out and activate them, expand them out at high frequency. It was a really focused thing that took a lot of time. So I'm completely lost at this point, even though I walk through these woods all the time. So I'm going to go back and find another way around. It took me a really, really long time to do. Now, a number of years later, I can do my chakras and really feel the benefit of doing that in 30 seconds. I've talked about this on the channel before. I've done micro meditations for activating the 15 chakra system and kind of given my rundown, I think I did at the end, of how I would do it, how quickly I would do it, because I think the meditation was still 5 minutes. So that for me is proof that the practice that I have done has taken effect. And that's not anything that I ever consciously practiced. It's not like I ever sat down and went, yeah, I need to practice working on my chakras so that I can get better at doing it. It was just something I did like every day to make myself feel better, to raise up my vibration, to, in the early days, you know, protect myself if I was going out and about or anything like that. That was kind of my intent behind it. And naturally it just got better over time, you know, even just trying to remember the names of the 15 chakras and the colours and where they are, and perhaps the archangels that are overseeing them, and all of these different things. That takes time to do. And you know, this is daily energy management practice that I think is really, really important and useful. It will make anyone feel better by doing it. And the other side of practice is perhaps the more specific things that you're trying to achieve, as I was saying, you know, becoming a better healer, being a better reader. Perhaps you want to do more planetary service work. So I'm just by the road now, but I'll be getting away from it again in a second. And really, for me anyway, I'm quite a practical person, and I've always tried to talk on these videos and provide practical ways of doing things. For me, when I was learning this stuff, you know, for me, doing planetary assisting the planet, working and healing the planet and clearing all of these different things has always been something that's been really important on my path to me. And I used to just meditate for quite often when I was going to bed. I would just lie in bed and I'd do my chakras, however long that took me at the time, and I'd open myself up and I'd call upon my guides and just basically ask them to guide me on what I could do to help the planet. And invariably someone would come through and guide me perhaps to a particular place on the planet, or we would focus on the whole planet, or even went off to other planets on other occasions and went to some crazy places. And to be honest, at the time didn't really know what I was doing, but I grew a lot through that practice, which, and this kind of brings me on to my next point, is that's this idea of practice versus doing. So for me, like my hobby is music, and when I'm practicing music, there's very specific things I sit down with the goal of practicing, and I will run scales and I'll run arpeggios and all sorts of technical things and stuff like that to improve my hands and kind of instill ideas into my mind. And that's brilliant. But I've also always been the firm belief that as a musician, the absolute best way to learn is by actually doing, by playing with other musicians and coming together and creating music. I've always felt that is the best way to learn, but that's not as easily accessible for all of us. Not all of us have the opportunity to do that, but you see it in people that grew up in musical households where it's just a part of their life from a very, very young age, that they become incredibly adept very, very quickly, because music is a language, and the more you speak it, the better you become, just like English or any other language. And that's this idea of practicing versus doing. And I think the same is true for spirituality, really. And that is in part why I used to do that, why I used to just open myself up and see how I could be of service. Because that was the doing. That wasn't me just sitting and learning and reading or anything like that. It was me actually doing. And for me personally, I learn much better by doing. I'm quite a practical person. You know, something perhaps doesn't sink in so well if I just read about it and, you know, hope that sinks in. The way that I learn is by actually doing it, and that was really the best way for me to go about that. And, you know, I think this is true as a saying about, you know, for how do you practice being a reader, if you're doing card readings or palm readings or whatever it is. The only way really to practice that is to do that. Yes, you can sit and you can read through the cards and you can meditate on the meaning of the cards and you can really absorb the energy of them so that you're in a position that when a particular card comes up, you're not having to get the book out and read the pamphlet, and also that you can talk fluently about the meaning of that card and the energy behind it without having to be basically verbatim reading the card back. So I guess there is that element of practice, that's of learning that you can do with that, but that's no substitute for the actual doing, for sitting down in front of a complete stranger and doing it, and you get better by doing it. No one sits down and does their first reading and it's going to be the best reading they'll ever do. It might be fantastic, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be the best reading that you ever do, because you get better and better. For me, you know, I'm now in a place where I've channeled hundreds of messages, whether for people personally on soul geometries or channeled messages like that, or stuff for videos or when writing events. And my connection has grown so substantially by doing that. And my knowledge as well, you know, I've got a whole stack of books at home and things, and I'm still buying books. I'm always buying books, but I treat books a little bit like I do crystals. A good book, especially one that's been channeled, has a really incredible vibration to it. I remember when I got it was my first kind of proper channeled book, and it was Beloved Archangel Speaks on the Angelic Host, I believe it was, by one of the St. Germain Press books. And I slept with that book by my side every single day for maybe 2 weeks or something like that when I got it. If I left the room, I took the book with me. It was stronger than any connection to any crystal that I've ever had. It was just glued to me, and I didn't want to be apart from it. It's because the energy of it was so incredible. You know, and that's how I know that it's truth. Those channelings are truth, they're real, they're authentic. And back to my point, although I've got all of these books, I very rarely actually sit down and read them. I've absorbed the energy off of a lot of them, and I do feel like that's helped me on my journey. But most of my learning, most of my experience that I've gained has been through those channelings. Morning.
Morning.
Hey, beautiful doggo. Hey. Hey. I mean, follow. Most of my experience that I've learned has been directly from the masters and from my guides and my team that I've learned through doing channeling. So without a doubt, for me, the best practice that I've ever done, the best thing I could have ever possibly done for my spiritual growth, was to start doing, to actually sort of practically get to work. And I guess there's a kind of a point, we're quite lucky really, or at least I'm quite lucky, smack the microphone, quite lucky at least within the channeling that I do, that I don't need to be in a group to do that I can just do that and I can connect to my teams. If you are a healer, that's more, or even a reader, you know, that's more challenging, because you need to find people to offer healing to. You need to offer readings to. And, you know, often when you are practicing, so we say at the beginning, that means doing so for free often, you know, just or very cheap or something like that. I think cheap is good, you know, you're still giving your time and your energy to do something, and that's an energy exchange. And I always feel that things are better with some kind of energy exchange. It's a, you know, tenet of unity, everything that we do. You know, everyone should get something back out of doing it. You know, if you give, you receive. That's flow. That's universal flow. That's balance. So, you know, perhaps you charge a small amount of money in order to do that, to entice people in, so that you can get that practice and you can grow. And another thing with this whole subject really is that we are in complete control of our own journey. Oh, you get some beautiful horses coming up in front of me. And turn it around so we can say hello to them as we come by. Yeah, we're in control of our journey, and we're in control of the pace in which we move. You know, if we want to accelerate. Hey, beautifuls. Aren't they gorgeous? I so love the wild horses and stuff around here. Oh, I think we have another one. I'm trying to get through the gate where I'm going. Two, in fact. This could be interesting. I don't know if I'm actually going to get through here. Hey. Hey, my beautiful friends. Yeah, I'm not going to try and squeeze through there, especially as there's a thorn bush. I'm going to give them space and let them do their thing rather than force my way through. They were here first. I'm just as entitled to it. So, yeah, we move at our own pace. You know, if we want to, we can meditate every single day and we can really push forward on our path. We can be clearing our systems, we can be trying to work to dissolve karma, we can be doing loads and loads of things. We can be practicing our daily energy management every single day. And as with anything that you're practicing, the more you do of it, the quicker you'll get better, the stronger you'll get the effects. Of course, the thing with spirituality is that when we are purging shadows, lower density from our systems, whether that's karma or whatever, it can often be a bit of a bumpy ride. You know, it can bring with it initiations and challenges, and just generally feeling a little bit raw and rotten as we go through it. And so it's perfectly understandable to, you know, to pace yourself so that you do it at a speed that's right for you. And there's no rush. There is absolutely no rush. You know, the truth of our ascension is that actually we've probably been building to this point in our lifetimes for several lifetimes, you know, not hundreds, building and growing to this point. And although to us it seems like this life is the be all and end all, and, you know, when it's over, we're done, that couldn't be further from the truth. This is just another rung in the ladder. And actually, if we don't, you know, fully achieve ascension, and I'm talking about, you know, going off in a beam of light, if we don't achieve that in this lifetime, that's okay, because we'll come back and we'll try again next time. You know, we don't have to push ourselves. And, you know, one of the most important things in all of this is to love ourselves and to honour ourselves and honour the journey. And if we push ourselves too hard, we rob ourselves of that spiritual growth of caring for the self. You know, it's amazing to be like really, really gung-ho and trying to go after your ascension as quickly as possible. But if that's not right for you, if that's pushing you too hard, then actually you're ignoring that lesson of self-love, which of course is so important on the path to ascension. So well, what do? It's like swings and roundabouts. So we set our own pace. And, you know, as you probably know, because I've been talking about it loads, I start my 6-month course this week, the Divine Restitution of the Star Within. And I've had a couple of people ask me, you know, is this going to be a really, really intense course? It sounds good, I really want to do it, but is this going to be really hardcore? Am I going to feel terrible for 6 months? And the truth is, as I said, you know, it's a bit like going to the gym. If you went to the gym every single day for 6 months, at the end of that, you would have completely transformed your body. You would probably be feeling really good. Hey, he's okay. Sorry, I will reduce the volume of the audio on that. A very excited dog saying hello to me. Where was I? yes, going to the gym every day for 6 months, you'd see great transformation. But it's going to be a hard journey, you know, really pushing yourself every single day. You'd have a lot of muscle ache, etc., etc., and there's a lot to deal with that. But you could also go to the gym, you know, 3 times a week for 6 months, and you might not see as much progress by the end of that journey, but you would be more comfortable. You would be giving yourself a day off in between for your muscles to recover and to heal a little bit before you begin to push on again. But at the end, you wouldn't have got as far. You could go once a week, and again, you would still see some development by the end of it, and it would be a much, much easier journey. You could go once a month and you probably wouldn't see much development by the end of it at all, but you'd have a really easy ride, except for maybe that day after the one day a month. My point is that, you know, you get out what you put into these things. If you want to do this 6 month journey, and of course I'd absolutely love it if you come, and I'm so excited about it. We've got 6 ascended masters teaching their wisdom about what they learned in their lifetimes about how to kind of master your reality and take control of your life so that you can get to a place feeling good, feeling happy, feeling supported, feeling loved, feeling abundant. Like, the opportunity to learn directly from 6 ascended masters that have been here and done it, it's just off the charts, you know. We've never really had opportunities like this before, and it's incredible, and I'm so excited. And if you want to join me for that, I'd love it if you want to share that with me. But the journey would be yours to take, right? If you can do that at any pace you want to. So there's going to be additional meditations as part of that course that you can do throughout the month to progress you further. And the choice is yours. You might want to come along to the sessions and you might learn the wisdom that the masters have got to teach, and you do the meditation on the night. And that's good for you until you come back a month later and you learn the next bit of wisdom. Or you might want to come and then start doing the daily meditation every single day and really push yourself and really ingrain the skills that they're going to be teaching so that you can make a massive shift in your life. Or you may want to be somewhere in the middle of that. And just like with the gym, what you're going to experience, you know, the after effects, the side effects, should we say, of doing that work is going to be massively determined by what you put into it. And so I don't think we really need to be afraid of doing something because we're worried that it's going to make us feel terrible afterwards, because we are in control. Even if it's like a one-off meditation that you're going to do, that's the description of it is like a really, really deep clearing. You can only ever release what you are ready to release. You know, if, say for instance, you did a meditation to release anger. Anger is a perfectly natural human reaction to the situation that many of us have faced in our lives. And perhaps a part of you wants to release that anger, so you try and do a meditation to help you do that. This meditation says it's designed to get in there and it's going to help you release the meditation. It all sounds fantastic and sounds great. But if there is a part of you, even just the smallest part of you, that's holding on to that anger, that doesn't want to let it go. And you know, the human ego does this. This is quite common. The human ego holds on to these things because somehow we feed off of that anger. You know, it gives us energy, it gives us purpose, despite whether that's justified or correct or not. This is how the ego often works for us. And so, because we're holding on to that, it doesn't matter if you invoke Archangel Gabriel at a 12th dimensional level and call him down to purify anger out of every single atom of your being, whilst he places you in a diamond grid for 31 days and you bathe in the violet flame, and you get where I'm going with this. It doesn't matter. If you're holding on to that anger, they can't take away from you what you're not willing to release, because you have free will. This is the thing, free will trumps absolutely everything. I'm getting a little bit off topic, but I'm sure at some point in there was a thread that was relevant. Yeah, really, you go in your own pace. You practice at your own pace. I know for me, playing music, if I played for 3 or 4 hours a day, every single day, which I would love to do if I had the time to do, I'd be feeling it. My arms, my muscles, I would be feeling that. And so we make decisions in our life to pace ourselves, whether that's based on the amount of time that we have a day, or the energy that we want to do, what we want to be feeling out the back of it. We pace ourselves. And that really kind of leads me to my last point, which is, how do we measure growth? I've just walked straight back down the same path that I got lost down earlier. Yeah, some of us don't learn, do we? I'm sure there's a spiritual lesson in that. Yeah, how do we measure growth? Now, again, this depends on what it is that you're trying to achieve. I'm just going to show you the beautiful forest that I'm walking through as we talk about this. Depends on what you're trying to achieve. If we go back to talking about energy management, then perhaps it's, what I was talking about earlier, that I managed to get to a place of, instead of it taking me 20 minutes to do my chakras, I can do it in 30 seconds. And that's quite easily measurable. And there's two facets of that. There's one, getting to a place where you are so comfortable that with all of the chakras and with your bodies and your fields and your systems and all of these different things, that you know all where they are, you know what they look like without thinking about it, but also how they should feel. Because you need to know that when you are essentially trying to purify that thing, you need to know when it has been purified in order to move on to the next one. Because if it hasn't been purified, then you probably need to spend more time doing it. So you need to get to a point where you can do a chakra in 5 seconds and know that it's been done, to feel that shift in your body. And when we do that's quite easily measurable, because we can time ourselves, and we just naturally know that it's taking us less time to do that than it used to, as long as if we're still feeling the benefits of doing so. Perhaps if it's going back to some of the other examples from earlier, if you're a reader, maybe it's about the feedback that you're getting from people that you're giving readings to. Maybe it's those moments where you're no longer reliant on the cards, and actually information is just starting to come through you. Because when you have a really good reading, even no matter if they're doing tarot or oracle or whatever, the cards are just a prompt. They carry a vibration that puts that reader onto a path of energy in order to retrieve the information that they need. It's not like the card is going to have all of the information written on it that's exactly what that individual person needs for the circumstances of their life. They're not that accurate because they're too general, because they're designed for everyone. So we can judge how we're growing as a reader by how easy the flow of information is, by how accurate, by how detailed the flow of information is that comes through. Kind of similarly with a healer, maybe it's the intensity of the energy that you're feeling flow through you, or perhaps you're finding you're getting guided more to find specific problems within areas of the body or energetic systems. If you're a channeler, maybe it's that the information is coming through easier to you, you're feeling more in flow. Perhaps the detail of what's coming through. The thing I absolutely love more than anything when I'm channeling is when it all comes through and I go back through it afterwards, and I haven't got a clue what a particular word means, and I have to look up in an online dictionary what a word means that I've said, and then I read the description and it's perfect, spot on for what this being is talking about. That's my absolute favourite things that happen when I'm doing readings. And I'm guessing that the more I do it, the more I learn these words, the less it will happen. But to me, that is confirmation that what I got through was real, because there's no possible way that I would have used that word. If it was coming from me, there's no way I would have used that word, because I don't know what it means. Likewise, if I do a channel message for someone and they come back to me and they go, oh my God, that's spot on, I'm going through this, or this is what happened, or this was my past life, or whatever it is, that I get these confirmations from people. And, that confirms to me that I'm moving forward, that my talents are getting stronger and that I'm growing. And I think, and this is probably going to be true for anything, no matter whether it's reading, healing, channeling, or any other use of your spiritual gifts and talents, it's the ease in which that we can do it. Because it's stressful a lot of the time. If you're in a situation, particularly like reading or channeling, where basically you're sat in front of someone, whether in person or virtually, and you are telling them something about their life that you have no idea whether it's true or not. It's just come through you, and you're telling them something about their life, and they could easily just turn around and say, no, that's not true. That is a terrifying thing to do. Any of you guys that are out there that are doing this kind of work, you'll get it. It's really nerve-wracking. And I faced an awful lot of fear when I started down this path, and I still do. I'm not gonna lie about that. I'm not gonna pretend. I'm not gonna hide. I still face fear in what I do, 100%. And the thing is that I was doing things at one level, and the more I did it, the more I practiced it, the more confident I became at doing it at that level. And I got more confident. The fear, the anxiety begin to settle away. And then, of course, those things settle away. Actually, your connection improves and things become so much easier. But then what happens is the universe takes it up a notch, and they go, okay, you're now successfully doing it at that level and you're feeling good. So we're going to bump things up to another level. We want you to start doing it like this now. And then the fear and the anxiety creeps back because it's pushed you out of your comfort zone. And then so on and so on, you get better at doing that, and then you bump up another level. And hopefully eventually we get to a place where all that melts away and we're just performing at a whole nother platform, and without the fear and the anxiety, because we're in a complete place of faith. And that's what it's all about. This is how you get to the place of the doing. It's all about faith. And one of my favourite things to do is call on Archangel Michael and ask him to fill me with his faith, because Michael carries an incredible vibration of faith, absolutely unbelievable, and he can instill that faith in you if you ask him. And the more you do it, the more regularly you do it, the more powerful it will become, and it will help you just get into flow and into trust and into faith with God in what you're doing. Because really, the truth about any spiritual work is, whether that's healing or reading or channeling or anything else that you can think of, is that really we're just a conduit, right? We're allowing God to flow through us. It's the reason why we're made of God, and that's where all our spiritual gifts and talents. We're just here to bring it through. And actually, it's not about us. It's the human ego that says it's about, it's coming from us, or whether we're getting it right or getting it wrong. That's all ego. And we have to move out of the way of that and get to a place of trusting God to allow it to come through in whatever format that is going to be. And I think we measure that by our responses to it. We measure it by how we feel when we do it, whether we feel good, whether we feel anxiety. And of course, my advice in this is that if you feel those things, do it anyway. As challenging as that is, but the only way we learn and we grow is by pushing through things. It's like learning anything else. If I want to get better at playing music, perhaps I pick a song that's really, really challenging that I want to learn. If I'm too afraid to try and learn that song, I'm never going to get better. And the reality is that if I try and I fail, what does it matter? I make a mistake and I keep on practicing, and over time you make that mistake less and you get better and you get better, because that is the point of practicing. That is the point of ascension, you know, is that we, over time, bit by bit, we make mistakes and we learn from them and we grow and we get stronger and we get stronger until that inevitable moment when we return to God, back to our pure perfected state. And so yeah, that was my meandering walk and my meandering talk about practicing spirituality. So I say again, you know, do you practice spirituality? What do you take from this video today? Is it perhaps made you think about practicing in a different way or a more focused way? Like, are you thinking that you actually want to spend time practicing? You know, when perhaps you didn't do that. Maybe you just rocked up once a month for did a meditation or something like that, which is great, you know, because there's no right or wrong in this. You know, I'm not saying to you that you have to practice spirituality. It's the last thing I'm saying, because the path is yours to walk however you wish to walk it. And there's no right or wrong answer about any of this stuff. But yeah, let us know. Let's get a conversation going in the chat. You know, how are you practicing spirituality? Do you practice? Do you want to practice? And you know, hopefully we can all learn and grow together as we talk about this. So, thank you so much for watching today. It's a joy to be with you out on this beautiful walk as always. If you've liked this, please do hit the like button. It really does make a big difference to us here on the channel to help spread and grow ourselves. And if you are not subscribed and you would like more content like this, or meditations or channel messages, please do hit the subscribe button as well, because we share regular content about all of this kind of stuff. Just a quick shout out, this week on Thursday 15th of May, I have my workshop Guardians of the Violet Flame, where we're going to be working with the Master Omri Tas, who's here to teach us really about the Violet Flame a whole nother level and what we can do with it to help transform this planet. He's going to be taking us on a journey back to the Violet Planet where he lives, a world that was transformed through the Violet Flame, and it's just going to be the most beautiful experience. If you like the Violet Flame, you're going to love this. I'm confident in saying that. I'm so excited and I can't wait to share that with you. So I'll pop the link in the description below. And of course, coming this Sunday is the opening ceremony for our 6th month journey. As I say, the journey is yours to make what you want of it. So please don't worry if you think it's going to be too intense or anything like that. It's your path to walk, and I have no doubt, even if you just show up for the workshops and don't do anything in between, the wisdom that the masters are here to share, I think is going to be really profound and life-changing. So yeah, again, I'll pop the link down below. We would absolutely love it if you feel like joining us for that. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much. And from my heart to yours, sending you so much love. Bye-bye.